Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name is Brody, and I'll be hosting this episode with my co-host, Christian, as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from The Mandalorian Season 1, Chapter 4. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. And if you're on the YouTube channel, you'll note that Amanda's not here.
I'm in her spot.
You're in her spot.
Sorry.
You are really wearing her shoes.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Amanda said before she left she'd lend you her shoes, but you couldn't fill them.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll do my best sitting in the middle spot.
Does
But
it throw you off?
it's kind of, she sees so much more.
She's got
than
great
what I
court
would see.
vision.
Yeah.
I know. That's why she sits in that spot.
Good perspective.
It just kind of mediates between us two. But we do have a pretty dynamic guest on tonight.
We do. We're really excited to have Brown Leader from the Hyperspace Heroes podcast joining us tonight to offer his 2 cents on The Mandalorian Chapter 4. Welcome.
Let's bring him in.
Hello there, guys.
Hello there.
What's up? Glad you're here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
And you guys just dropped some episodes too, finalizing your thoughts on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
We did. We just did double episodes this week. Monday, we dropped our reviews of chapters 1 through 3 of Kenobi. And then today, this morning, just so I could announce it on the show tonight, is our reviews of chapters 4 through 6.
Definitely.
Ooh, all right. Now we have to talk about Mandalorian tonight. But before we do, overall thoughts, impressions, Kenobi, I think it's okay. Star Wars fans hate me for it, but it's okay. It's just okay. I enjoy it, but it's okay. What do you think about it?
So after on the episode we dropped today, there's a part where after we talk about the chapters, I asked the guys what out of the 3 Disney live streaming shows, how would they rank them? And I came in last with kind of a what you guys would call a hot take, which was I put Kenobi actually at number 3. And one of the main reasons being is that we really didn't need it.
Hot take. I do remember, you tweeting that over at us in the comments here. We were marveling at the order with which you had them. But you, like all the listeners, they're definitely going to have to check out those last 2 episodes of
Boba
Hyperspace
number
Heroes.
1, right?
Yeah. Boba was number 2. And it was funny because all 3 of us actually did rank them in different order. So
Really?
Scruffy had Kenobi at number 2. And DB had Kenobi at number 1. And it was they did not like my take on why I put Kenobi at 3, that's for sure. But I think for the overall lore of Star Wars, it didn't. Yes, it was kind of a cool, in a way, a side adventure, all in all. But it didn't really expand the lore that much as Mando, Book of Boba, and Ludwig are, expanding that whole. The newness, the freshness of new Star Wars.
Agreed.
Definitely. I think what you were saying too, it alludes to the fact that Obi-Wan was operating within that box, but it acts as more like a bridge to appreciate A New Hope a little more and to see where we connect the prequels to A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
fun. Like I said, if you watch it in one sitting or a few sittings, like, it's a fun ride. No shade being thrown that way, saying it's a terrible show, but I for sure thought it was the best in terms of quality. And now that I'm going back and watching episodes like we saw with Chapter 4 of The Mandalorian, I forget how good it was.
Yeah.
Or how good it is. It just it's a fantastic show. Christian, for the listeners that don't remember what Chapter 4 is all about, because Amanda's not here and, well, I don't have a script for the overview of tonight's episode. What was it all about? Do you have one?
I guess just off the cuff. Wow, Chapter 4. Well, let's see what happened. They went to Sorgan. There were some angry Klatooinians. Wow. There was an ATST with evil red eyes.
Yep.
And
like camo.
There was some blue shrimp at the beginning. I remember those. And some spotchka.
He went to go live with the village people.
Yeah, the village people, the very nice lady and her daughter Winta. I'm just naming people that
So
were in
you
the
know
episodes.
all the details, but
Yeah.
you don't remember the story.
I was entertained by it though, and Brown Leader can heal. He knows a lot with Mandalorian.
Are you
as well,
gonna ask
chime in.
our guest, who we just asked today to come on our show,
Give us
to
a
tell us what the story was
we
all
get
about?
I'm not
What
done
kind
yet.
of reviewers are we?
This is an interactive summary, so chime in anytime you want. But there was Cara Dune, the introduction of that awesome character, and we also got. I enjoyed this story of they got into like this role of we need to now protect this village if we want to stay here.
Yeah.
So let's take on this side quest but fun episode. Did I miss anything, Brown Leader?
A lot.
I mean, so this episode really was this was Favreau's homage to Kurosawa.
There we go.
And everything that Kurosawa did. This in particular was kind of a knockoff of Seven Samurai.
Mm.
And in the fact that you've got a village in trouble, so they go to hire some mercenaries, samurai in the original film, Mando and Cara Dune in this one, and they come back to defend the village against the raiders. You even have it even down to the level that you have like the two guys, which are kind of the bumbling oafs of the episode. That's a very, very Kurosawa thing in those films. And it was kind of a love letter to it from the production standpoint, kind of a love letter to what really influenced Lucas in Star Wars originally.
That's pretty cool. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah. I loved this episode. It's by far, it might be if it's not my favorite episode of The Mandalorian, it's up there.
Whoa.
There's not many. Think about this though. And within like 30, 40 minutes, how many times do you really get introduced a new character, genuinely care about that character? For me, like, hang it up, man, retire. This is awesome. And you care about the family, you care about the village, you care about everything. And then, of course, he leaves. That's the only time we see that character, but you care so much. I mean, as much as I love, like, in the future we see Bill Burr, it took that second instance of him coming back for people to really buy into some of his dynamic scenes. But I don't know. This told a really complete story in 30 minutes where you felt like you were satisfied and didn't need a whole lot more. And you really, really enjoyed that. I can't say that all the time about Mandalorian.
Yeah, this was a good, enjoyable side quest. Kind of. And it helped with the story a little bit too. But like I really enjoyed it. And I thought it still like brought me into the show. Like, yeah, I'm ready for chapter 5.
I think it only helped the story a little bit.
I think I focused more on like characters and lore were like the strong points for this one. That's where I would rank it highest. Like it did cool things for lore, new planet, new culture, like showing more of like the Clatoonians. We even learned more. Amanda brought this up when she was like, she gave us her little tidbit before on this episode, and how we learn more about Mando through the eyes of that woman, like, and her working with him on that. And it's hard to work with someone, an actor whose face is covered, and she's, working with that. But we got to learn more through Mando about that too. So that was really cool. What did you think, Brown Leader? What was some highlights and lowlights for you?
So the highlights, definitely this episode was, I look at it as more than just a side quest. This really was an episode to reinforce kind of the emotional heart of the show in terms of furthering that bond, what he is willing to go to, to after pretty much ticking off the guild, going against the guild ways, taking what was his bounty, and he's starting to question things. He's on the road. And like you said, Omera, the widow, there was so much, they started getting into more of the helmet thing.
The culture of it.
Yep. The culture of it, that which funny enough, because Star Wars is like poetry and it's got a rhyme. Chapter 11, which is also directed by the same director, furthers more. That's the one that they introduce Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians, and they answer the question of can Mandalorians take their helmets off or not?
Yep.
And so it's yeah, I really saw it as kind of the emotional, just reinforcing that emotional core of the show, that where we're going. And one of the things I love about this show and why it is the highest ranked for me right now is the level of physical acting, not just by the Mando actors, the three of them that wear the suit, but Omera herself, the subtle little facial gestures,
Oh yeah.
her reacting to Mando, and and give it, props to the three actors, or the three people that wear the Mando suit, and just what they can do with the turn of a head, the nod of the head, the way the body moves, is just amazing in terms of you don't need dialogue. That's why I liked chapter 2 so much. The first 11 minutes, there was no dialogue, and it didn't need it.
Yeah.
And you don't even really notice it. So
Yeah.
the lowlights, there's always the obvious question: why didn't he just go get the gunship to take out the ATST? I mean, there were kind of a few little plot.
He had a good
things.
parking spot. You can't just leave that and let someone else take it.
True enough. But I wouldn't really call it I wouldn't really call anything lowlights in this show. There are some campy parts, but that is part of what this show is in its traditional and traditionalist nature of Star Wars.
Yeah. I liked what you were saying on, so getting back to the whole helmet thing, we're exploring the culture, but we're also exploring this question of religion and kind of a legalism too, with like when Cara Dune asks, what happens when you take off your helmet? And like he's explaining, basically nothing. She's like, that's it. You'd give all this up. And it forces that audience to question, all right, what legalities or like what man-made rules should we be actually paying attention to or whatnot? But yeah, so I like you brought that up. And I also enjoyed they brought out more of the child in Baby Yoda, having children interact with Baby Yoda, and like Winta and her thing with that. Like that was adorable. Yeah, that was adorable stuff.
Him chewing, going to swallow the frog, and the kids are all ew, and he spits it out, starting to learn some social norms, from the other kids.
I want to know what was not Orome? What was Mando's girlfriend's name in this episode again? Omera. Sorry, I've been reading the Silmarillion, and Orome came back up in mind. Anyway, Omera, yes. I want to know how she was such a good shot.
Yeah, I was actually commenting, like my wife and I were watching it, and
everyone good shot.
My wife and I were watching it, and every once in a while we'll just insert our own dialogue for comedy. And when she's like doing her thing or whatnot, I was just voicing for her, like, yeah, in my previous job I was an assassin, and I actually had all these kills, and that's actually not my daughter. I'm just taking care of her because I killed her parents. And
this whole backstory.
But it does make you wonder, like, what did this woman do?
Yeah, like what's your story there? So I don't know. I thought that for me was kind of a low light. Like it was kind of campy. I mean, but again, there could be a whole story there. It just seemed like, oh, we're gonna make her awesome because we can. But hey, maybe there's a whole story there. Whatever.
Well, anyway, and in one way, I hope they never explore it. I hope they leave it a mystery.
Yeah.
I don't need everything explained in Star Wars. I like, like when we had you guys on, we talked about, I like ambiguity.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of mystery. That's another reason, with Obi-Wan, do we really need to know what went on in those 20 years?
Do you feel like Boba Fett should have been made then? Because that's kind of my thing. What do you think about the book of Boba Fett just being made, not the show?
Book of
that's his whole thing is ambiguity.
Yes. But they're not tackling during the years of the movies. It's new stories.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's new stories moving forward and inserted into the, for lack of a better term, the Mandoverse, this little microcosm in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah.
And before Mando was even out when it was released that they were making a show about Mandalorian, my buddies and I all agreed we don't want it to be about Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's not. Would it be cool if he was the main character? I guess, but I'm a Boba fan. I love Boba Fett. He was always my favorite. I didn't have a lot of Star Wars toys growing up, but I had Slave One and I had Boba Fett, and because he was the man of mystery, he was the and so I appreciated that. But I think the way they brought him in to the show and telling new stories and not again answering, I don't need all those years of questions answered,
Yeah.
in terms of his backstory. But if new stories,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I totally agree with you on like the mystery side of things. Like we should be able to use like the mystery ambiguity. That's a big part of storytelling to use to your advantage as the storyteller. You just need to know when to apply it, when to not,
Yeah, that's just like two different trains of thought, I think. Like, again, I'm coming more from like before I was even a huge Star Wars fan, coming from being like a Tolkien fan and learning a lot about Lord of the Rings. You're like, you read those books and you have a lot of questions. And then you go out and you read things like the Silmarillion, and like Tolkien would answer a question, but turn into like 5 other questions. Whereas like, and again, great literature. Whereas Star Wars is really different. A lot of times you'll have a question and it's one of two things, like, oh, that content hasn't been made yet, or here's this huge EU of stuff where there's quite literally answers for every nitty gritty detail or what they're doing now. So it's very different in that way. And obviously they're making a whole lot of new content. So now you're forced to ask ourselves, like, how much do we really want the answer to that? Like Andor, for example, how much do we really want his backstory or, his life? And
Mhm.
that's what we're getting. And now, because again, it's a business, we as consumers kind of get to help dictate what storylines are being put out and what's going to sell. So
With Andor, I'm kind of hopeful. It's a piece of the story of the original, trilogy. Well, actually branching between the prequels and the original trilogy. It's a piece that has never been explored, and so the whole espionage side of the rebellion, that was, and they didn't, other than what we thought was just going to be a throwaway line in the beginning of Rogue One.
Yeah.
They're going to explore it. So I think if done right and if done well, I think it'll be a great addition to the universe, because it is a side that has never been explored at all, really, in its the rebellion intelligence side of things.
And I think we're all excited about it too. And it's like I said, it's some of those things like, if you were to ask fans beforehand, like, what's going to do well, a story about Han Solo or a story about the plans for the Death Star? I think most people would raise their hands and say Han Solo. And now we look back, and a lot of people regard Rogue One as one of, if not the best Star Wars film ever made for them. I am not one of those fans, but like many, I think it's really good, but not the best. But there are a lot of people that esteem it to that high regard. So it's just interesting that we do get to kind of get that say in what we want to hear next. Like, do we want to get another Book of Boba Fett season? Do we want more Mandalorian? So I do appreciate the Mandoverse. I do appreciate them building all the things they're building. But that's one of the nice things about Chapter 4, is it doesn't feel like it's a Marvel movie per se. It doesn't feel like a lot of season 2 of Mando, where it's incorporating all these other characters and doing all these things. It's telling this one specific story. It does introduce you to Cara Dune, who we haven't talked much about yet, who we should probably do that. But it's really nice because for me, like we said, it does hit on those religious aspects. It does get not only the audience to question, as you mentioned, Christian, like, what's the value of potentially this dogmatic, practices he follows in this religion versus what he actually wants out of his life. And everyone's kind of like saying, just give it up, just go.
Just give it up, man.
Of course, there's a bounty hunter he encounters at the end, and Cara Dune saves them all.
I was surprised though, like they showed that shot where he took off his helmet while he was eating, watching the kids play.
through a window.
And I was like, whoa, man, that's a little risky. Like,
like
they
that
could
window.
see, what are you doing?
Like, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, does that is there some sort of glass that we're not seeing that he can only see out? They can't see in?
Tinted.
What's the deal? What did we think about Cara Dune's character?
Top-notch character, like piqued curiosity, and she's BA, man. She was gonna beat the crap out of Mando.
You think so? It looked like a draw to me.
I think she could.
I don't know. She was putting the smackdown on him.
She was putting the smackdown on him.
That one where she takes him and basically just smashes him to the ground.
Oh yeah, it looks like his spine broke.
Yeah. Yeah, love the character concept. And bringing in an actual MMA fighter to play a role like that.
Yeah.
Kind of what I think they were kind of setting up to kind of be kind of the Hulk of the group, in a way, for those combat situations. And again, a rebellion shock trooper.
Yeah.
Something completely new, fresh, different, the special forces, so to speak, of the rebellion, and a cool little lore expansion right there.
It was cool. And they could relate because they're both trying to get away, lay low, and now they're both competing for Sorgan to be that new home. They're like, there can only be one of us, and then they're starting to try to make it work out. Yeah. And they, part their ways at the end of this episode.
For now. Well, looking at our rankings overall, it looks like between Amanda, Christian, and I myself gave it an 82.8%. Amanda 80 and Christian herself at 78.4. This is the highest rated episode of Mandalorian thus far at 80.4%.
Pretty crazy.
So, Brian Leader, what do you think about that? Did we rank it too high, too low, just right?
Like at this point in time, how would you rank Chapter 4 in context?
In context, it's just the 4 episodes so far.
Yeah, like that's all you've seen.
Right. So I'm trying to remember back to the first viewing of this when it was new, it was fresh, and that's all we had.
Yeah.
And it definitely raised a lot of question marks, because it lit a firestorm online about the whole helmet thing. Because everybody started going right back to every other Rebels, Clone Wars, everything else. And it lit a firestorm. So it got the fan base just all stirred up from that aspect. But, story, it was good. I liked it at the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate it much more now with the whole context of the show and where we're at 2 seasons in. I think at the time, out of the 4 episodes, probably Chapter 3 was probably leading for me in terms of, where we were at, just because, well, I'm a guy and I like science fiction action. I mean,
I'm right there with you.
and just the whole story of him going back and, and then going against the guild and taking Baby Yoda to, and now going on the run. But, I definitely, this episode has definitely moved up the ranks for me quite a bit in retrospect. I think that's probably a pretty fair score. Now I've got a soft spot for Mando. I think I absolutely love the show. I love the concept. It's kind of like we talked about on our episode where when you get a chance to see something new, something fresh, and that impression that it gives you. So when we saw the original movies, when there was no other Star Wars, it creates a certain type of feeling. And Mando did that for it. I wasn't on Twitter back then, but I remember telling the guys when Mando came out and we were getting into the season that it's the first time I had that feeling since I was a kid watching Star Wars, in terms of just that fun, awe, fascination, kind of rekindled that whole childhood love of it in a way. So I'm good with that score. I give it a few more points just because I'm a softie towards it. I'm heavily biased towards Mando. I will absolutely admit that. But no, happy to see it up in the 80s, that's for sure.
All right. Well, I feel good about that score. Finally, Christian, we've got one that falls in the A through F range for scores.
The letters.
We
man.
finally have one that's a B.
Letters kill me.
Fans, I had to knock it up to a 99% just to get it there. I mean,
I will say, if we didn't already mention it, the I'm just looking at our cumulative ranks, the highest categories for all of us combined. It looks like characters won it, and then the music, which we hadn't talked about the music yet. Everything else was still pretty close, but those are like the
Yeah, we really
cumulative
just need
top
to
two.
talk about how amazing
The
Ludwig
music,
Göransson is. I mean,
I really, and Amanda brought this up too. The Mando theme, the Mandalorian theme, but with the like guitar lullaby
yeah.
strings, that was a nice touch that I think plays into very much the emotional side of what you were saying, Brown Leader,
Yeah.
to this episode. So I think that worked out very well in favor of, ranking the music higher.
Absolutely. What does Ludwig Göransson not score well?
I don't know.
Baskets? Does he not play basketball? I mean, like,
I'm
what?
not-
What
I'm
does
not
he not?
familiar.
What does he not score well? 'Cause everything
I
I've
don't know.
seen him do is pretty fantastic.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty great. Pretty great. If I'm ever having a bad day, just put on that Book of Boba Fett theme, which, by the way, like, it's not even really his score. Like, he's been attributed that. It's just his dynamic team. He just surrounds himself with other great composers. So, what a great song.
My ringtone on my phone is the Mandalorian theme.
Oh,
It's great.
Killer. This guy.
Is the Mandalorian theme just now? Listen, you were around when Christian and I were not around when A New Hope was released. You were, right? So the Force theme, when Luke is looking out in the binary sunset, obviously there's a special place in your heart. We talked about this before for that theme. Is the Mandalorian? My take was the Mandalorian main theme song is just as epic as the Force theme.
He's going for justification on live TV.
Yes, I absolutely am. You can say no. That's okay. You don't have to agree with me, but no one else does. I'm just
Don't
like,
put him in this position.
I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. I think it's an apples to oranges comparison.
There you go.
The OT and the whole John Williams era, that's a specific thing, and what I love about Ludwig's stuff, and I think I tweeted at you guys that, he is the GOAT of the future. He is the future of Star Wars music because he's building upon it. You can hear the roots in there, but it's new. I hate to repeat myself, but it's new, it's fresh.
Yeah.
I remember listening, I remember watching Mando Chapter 1 for the first time. I was up at 4:30 in the morning, down in the basement by myself, big screen on, trying to download Disney so I could watch it. And I remember hearing that theme and I'm like, what is this? And I was I was a little confused at first, but I'm like, but it grew on me really fast. And again, because as the show progresses, as the show's going on, it's new. It's not the OT. It's not the prequels. It's a new era of storytelling for Star Wars. And I think I love the sound. As I said, it's my ringtone on my phone. So
Nice.
I'm a huge Ludwig fanboy for sure, without a doubt. And I think the music in this episode, it wasn't until I started listening to you guys actually that I've started even paying more attention to the music. But for me, ranking music, I look for it to be seamless. I look for myself not to notice the music, for it to be an active part of the storytelling. And I think you guys have referenced it before, Duel of the Fates. That would not be the same without, that whole mall fight would not be the same without Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it's such an integral part of the emotional story.
Yeah.
And this episode, the music, until I rewatched last night, and I actually rewatched today, and it wasn't until I was doing these rewatches that I really started paying more attention to it. But it just reinforced the fact that in the original watching and rewatching of this episode, it's just seamless for me. It fits the story, it's timed right, and it completes the story. That was one of the differences I had with Obi-Wan. I really didn't care for the music or the music in chapter 1 of Obi-Wan. I
Mhm.
thought, and don't get me wrong, Obi-Wan's theme is great. It's a John Williams thing, but I don't think they used it right. I think they used it too much in the first episode. And I found when I was watching the first episode, they would use it in parts where I didn't really think it fit, and it detracted from You don't need his theme while he's traversing the desert necessarily.
Do you
you
think
go.
so? You weren't able to justify that hot take of mine, and I understand that. Let's go for a different one. Should Ludwig Göransson have scored Obi-Wan instead of Natalie Holt? We're turning this to a whole.
You're
different
really
podcast.
grilling him, man. Jeez. I did not sign up for this.
You know, I
navigated the last waters so
He
masterfully.
did great. I agree with everything he said.
Everything
that
he
last one.
said. So we're
because
gonna-
I listened to you guys, I kind of expected this question, actually.
He knows us.
So, and honestly, I would say no. I don't think he should have.
Love this
Again, because
still
Obi-Wan
alone.
was, and that's not to detract from Ludwig. Ludwig is the sound of the future. Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan show was a part of the past.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yep.
It's filling in a few gaps, you know. DB, I mean, we all loved it, and don't get me wrong, I love Kenobi. I thought it was a great show. Had a few issues with it, but nothing crazy. But it needed to fit the narrative style of the prequels and the OT,
Mhm.
Sure.
and that includes the music.
Definitely.
Natalie Holt, I don't know, you know, and I also wonder if it's not so much Natalie, or if it was just the editing, you know, post edit and blending the music in appropriately at the right times for the show.
Yeah, that could be it too. I would like, so going back to what you're saying with the music and Ludwig's whole of the future in this kind of like the Mandoverse now, which I like that. So we have the Mandalorian theme. You have Book of Boba Fett's theme, which is different, but you can tell they're related to the Mando theme. And like, I think there's room to tie in everyone's theme, like Ahsoka's theme or whatnot, whatever that may be, with the new shows in this Mandoverse. And you can really tie the music into this cinematic universe now and start creating something like that bubble.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool to do. And it's, we can't take anything away from what Ludwig's is doing. And it's
the nicest thing you've ever said about him.
honestly, I
Wow.
never said anything bad until you were like praising him to like God on high. You were like just as good as
My
the
resolve.
original Force theme. And I'm like, what are you saying?
My resolve has never been stronger.
But no, I mean, I don't everyone take anything away from him. I think like Brown Leader is saying, we are talking about two different kinds of fruits, man.
I think that was a safe answer.
Apples and oranges.
I'm kidding. Kind of. No, I really do. I agree on some of those points. Personally, like I said, I actually would have liked to see Ludwig on that project, but we already know that, and that's okay. For people that want those hot takes, they can go listen to previous episodes. But today we need to probably get back to the Mandalorian
To
season
chapter
1.
4.
Chapter 4. We had a lot of good stuff in there, and honestly, some of those things we're already talking about old hot takes, so I think we should probably get to new hot takes. Let's do it. Lord Vader, bring us in.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It's hot takes time, the part of the show where we bring in takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. And I've got one today. I think it's hot. We'll see what the rest of the world thinks. I think Mando is a coward. And the reason I think that, there is no denying that Din Djarin is an emotionally underdeveloped man-child. Okay, he was taken, or adopted. Let's say adopted by Death Watch or whatever at an early age, and he learns how to fight, how to do all these things, how to basically be a man, right, so to speak. But I love how in this episode we do basically see he retreats within himself. And the armor is that basically that form of storytelling within that. He does hide within himself when he faces anything that he feels some sort of emotional pull. He wants to run the other way. And so while yes, he's willing to go fight the big baddie, he's not willing to kiss the girl when it counts. So, my man's a coward.
Ooh. Brown leader, you want to go first?
I won't disagree with that. He retreats into himself, and that is, due to, like you said, his upbringing, Death Watch, and the, very rigid caste structure, as we come to find out through the show. Just not being able to pull off the helmet. But I think he's more confused at this point in the story than he is a coward. And it all starts with the Mudhorn scene, and from that moment on, when Baby Yoda holds the Mudhorn up, and then he looks at Baby Yoda, that's the moment. He's had this rigid structure his whole life, since being taken in by them, and he's now questioning everything. Yeah. He's now questioning. He went against the guild rules and went and got Baby Yoda back. I mean, that was the first real big thing. And so when you're going through a questioning phase like that, it's not uncommon to, if you're not sure, you pull back to what you pull back to your training. And the scene with Omera where she's starting to lift the helmet, and you're like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And then at the last second, he pulls it down. What's he doing? He doesn't know what to do. He's confused. He's got conflicted emotions, which he's not used to dealing with.
Yeah.
So he resorts to his training, what he's been taught, and he shuts right back down. Now, depending on your perspective, that could be misinterpreted a lot of different ways, for sure. A coward? No, I don't think so. If he was a coward, he wouldn't have gone back to get the child.
Exactly.
As the bounty, he wouldn't have been willing to risk everything. So,
I also disagree. It's a good hot take, because I think you would ruffle some feathers by saying that. Mm-hmm. I would, disagree. Piggybacking off of Brown Leader, if he would have, I love that you love the Mudhorn scene so much, and you've talked about it, and I've seen you talk about it on Twitter as well, and I've thought about it differently because of that. And with the Mudhorn scene, or things like him denying the Mudhorn signet and going, he cares about honor, he cares about doing the right thing. It's him trying to figure out what the right thing is. And I think you would have a case for he's a coward if he wasn't wrestling or questioning these things, and he just kind of went on his merry way of just kind of blindly doing these things for personal gain, or you see more things turning out well for him because of personal gain and not as much for sacrifice. I think there's more groundwork laid to where, because there is that struggle, I think that eliminates the argument for coward. But I do see what you're saying.
You always do that. You're like, I disagree with you.
At least you came up with a hot take. I didn't come up with one for this episode.
Oh, Christian, when's the last time you had a hot take?
A really true hot take? We'd have to rewind to a long way back.
Sorry. If it's not in the archive, it doesn't exist.
Does not exist.
Well, for me, this episode, I have received
I find your lack of good takes disturbing.
Brown Leader, do you have a hot take for this week's episode?
Scruffy was going to have one if he was able to make it on, and I'll see if I can defend his hot take.
You're like, I don't agree with this.
So we kind of kicked it around last night or earlier today, and which was the hot take was going to be that, and I really wish Amanda was here for this. Bryce Dallas Howard is a better director than Deborah Chow.
Whoa.
Whoa, there goes my trivia question.
You're like putting
Oh,
two
no.
females in the octagon. There's some real MMA fighting.
Talk about this for a while I make a new trivia question. Bryce, I'm going to go ahead and agree, but before I give my stance, Christian, you just go ahead and discuss it while I find a new question.
I'm trying to replay all the episodes each that they did, but I think you have a way more solid argument than the coward thing.
Please expand.
Bryce Dallas Howard, I'm trying to remember all the other stuff she's done, but at this point in time, I will say, I mean, just to the numbers, we did rank this one higher than the previous one by Deborah Chow. I don't know. I like both styles, whatnot. We have the benefit of hindsight with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Deborah Chow having done that. And to the testament of, I think, the show, and we've all agreed, like, the show has done better than Obi-Wan. I'll entertain it. I'll give it a thumbs up. But I don't know. I'd have to critically think about that more. I think I personally enjoy Deborah Chow's stuff more. Maybe like critically looking at it a lens, I gave Bryce Dallas Howard a higher score, but I personally enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi, and like there are parts of that show that I rewatched on my own volition, and I never did that with The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett. I never rewatched the shows. I watched them because I knew I needed to consume the Star Wars content, and I enjoyed them. But parts of Obi-Wan, that was the first time that I actually had to rewind and watch it because I loved it that much. So it's interesting because I personally think, I enjoy Deborah Chow's stuff more. But objectively, like critically through the lens, Bryce Dallas Howard might have offered more to the table. I don't know. What do you think, Brody?
Yeah, I've got a new question for trivia.
Oh, come on.
That's what I think. My question was, who directed this episode? And then, Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm like, well, I even said before you started recording, I'm like, I think you guys are gonna know this. And then like this segment right before, I'm like, well, they know this. All right, I've got a new question ready. It's tough because what I have seen from Deborah Chow, I do think has been really, really good. The last episode of Mandalorian was really good. I do think Obi-Wan Kenobi, from a director's perspective, where you're not given full reins of the story. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not given the project from A to Z. So it's really hard to hold that against her. There were some visual things that I don't like decisions that she made, like the shaky camera stuff or whatever. Not a fan of those things. But I am a huge fan of Bryce Dallas Howard. Now, to say one is better than the other is tough for me as well, in that Bryce was brought on to Solo, the set of Solo, right? Where her dad...
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Her dad, Ron Howard, okay?
Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie, old Opie. He was, he brought her on, and she met the folks from Lucasfilm there, and that's how she even got connected and got this opportunity to start directing. So, again, in this ring, where both aren't really given full reins of the story, whatever, I'd love to see what Bryce would do. She had her own season. I am a huge fan of Bryce Dallas Howard, and I think she's one of the few shining things in the Jurassic World trilogy as an actress. And I would like to see her get her own show. But to say she's better than Deborah Chow based on what we've seen thus far, it doesn't ruffle my feathers.
Really?
I'm going to say it's milquetoast.
Whoa. I was going to say that was a good hot take.
I don't know. It's just what's like I don't know. It's like one maybe a 7.8 and one's a 7.9 from directors. So I'm going to say milquetoast. Doesn't ruffle my feathers. No shade. No shade thrown. But
Amanda is probably fuming. She's like, wow, 3 men ranking women. This is terrible.
And here we are, and she can do nothing about it because she's not here. And next week, we're not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about cowards. We're not going to talk about this moment. She'll never know. She'll hit us. Guys, we need help.
We do.
Amanda's a mean person. No, she's very nice.
Oh, she's great.
Very, very nice person. But yeah, I'm going to say milquetoast.
Wow. I think it's a good hot take.
So, yeah, I guess it goes back to him. So in that case, he gets the tiebreaker. So you've earned yourself a
Sweet.
a Roger. And with that said, it's time for the last segment of the show. Force Ghost Charlie. What time is it?
This is the way to trivia time.
Great segue.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. No, it in that time where we were talking all about Bryce Dallas Howard, I was trying to put together a new segment for trivia time.
I went on a good rant for you.
Yeah, I know.
Before you do that, okay, so I listen to you guys all the time, and
Yep.
I wanted to. I came up with 3 answers before you even asked the question.
This guy's so good. He's anticipating the future.
Oh no. Yes, go ahead.
All right. So answer number 1 was Clatoonians. Answer number 2 was Lothcats or Lothcat.
I like
and which I knew Amanda would have commented on right away about the episode. And then number 3 was chapter 11, The Heiress, which was the other episode that Bryce Dallas Howard directed.
Those are good anticipatory answers.
And if you know if you knew I was asking the questions, then you probably should throw Tamara Morrison somewhere.
This
in
is
there.
Jeopardy.
Oh,
now
yeah, that's true.
this is Jeopardy. Now you got to go. What was the cat in the restaurant?
All right, but no, seriously, time for my trivia question. So, the plot of The Mandalorian Chapter 4 has the same premise and was inspired by, as we actually discussed earlier, the Seven Samurai, a 1954 film. But it was also inspired by one other movie. What was it? Was it A, The Magnificent Seven, which was filmed in 1960? Was it also inspired by A Fistful of Dollars? Or The Searchers from 1956? Or lastly, Once Upon a Time in the West, 1968. So basically, it was inspired by also a Western film in this episode. So again, you got The Magnificent Seven, 1960, Fistful of Dollars, The Searchers, or Once Upon a Time in the West.
Jeez, man, I thought you wanted to give us points this week.
I was going to, and then you guys predicted the outcome before I was able to get to the question.
He did it.
So I gave you a hard one.
I feel like Brown Leader would know, so I should go first.
Okay.
Man, I really don't know. I want to say my gut was The Magnificent Seven.
Why?
Because
We never ask why.
just like a classic defense story, like just defending the land, defending the area.
All right. Okay. Makes sense.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Do you? I think you do.
Brownlee, what do you think?
I think, well, I'm going to go with A, but I think D, Once Upon a Time in the West, I think that was heavily influenced for the train episode in Book of Boba.
Ooh.
I think there was some sort of reference to that they were kind of modeling it after that. But I would say A, just because Magnificent Seven is a Western remake of Seven Samurai.
And
there we go.
yes, and that is the correct answer. The Magnificent Seven. You both got it right. I thought that was a hard question.
I mean, I felt stumped.
But you did it.
I went with my gut. And
your
I'm
gut
glad
was right.
Brown Leader went there too.
And yeah, you both got it correct. Well, wow, that was most of all impressive by me.
I mean,
coming up with a question that
I'm proud of
quickly.
you for developing that question within so short a time.
Short
So
a
thank you
time.
for doing that.
No, I'm kidding. The real amazement goes to, especially, I mean, one, your gut. I need to start trusting your gut. Clearly, that was awesome. And secondly,
Listen about Ludwig then. Ludwig,
what does Brown Leader not know is the real question.
you're a wealth of knowledge, Brown Leader.
Seriously, like my goodness.
It comes from living a longer life.
We do appreciate your wisdom on
I
the
hope
show.
to get there one day.
If for the listeners who haven't, if you haven't already, you do need to check out one when we were on Hyperspace's show. Their boomers titled what was it? Boomers and
okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. Yeah. Great discussion we had with them. But then also like all your guys' other content. You have some good insights, good wisdom on that. And
Where
like
can-
we were saying earlier, you released the Obi-Wan episodes too.
Where can people find the Hyperspace Heroes podcast, and where are everything, all your stuff? Where can people find you?
Great. Well, thanks for asking. The Hyperspace Heroes, we're in audio only format right now. So we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on all of the podcasting streaming. We're not on things like YouTube yet. We don't want to scare children, so we haven't started doing video yet. And you can find us on social, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're most we have a page on Facebook. It's the Hyperspace Heroes page. But we're probably most active on Twitter. I love posting memes. I'm a huge Star Wars meme junkie.
You do have a good meme game.
Yeah. And because I'm on all three platforms, I have a longer reach, so I can find them, and I'll usually transpose them from one social to the other if I'm seeing a lack on one. So
nice.
Well,
I love that we have Heather in the comments. She's saying Brown Leader is never wrong. And the other one is Chuck Norris checks under his bed at night. The other one is who shot first? Brown Leader did. I love that. Thanks for joining, Heather.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, Brown Leader, seriously, thank you so much for joining this week's episode of Duel the Ranks. It was very last minute. Christian and I, we've had kind of a crazy week, and then we realized Amanda wasn't going to be here, and we looked at our guest list, and we didn't. Our guest wasn't able to be here today, and we just thought to ourselves, we're like, we should go.
But we want it when Scruffy and DB can come on too. Like this isn't the last. This isn't the last.
Not the last at all. Seriously, thank you so much for just last minute of all.
Oh, absolutely.
On our show. Ton of fun, just a great conversation. And I kind of worried too. I'm like, well, not only is it last minute, what if this is an episode you don't really enjoy talking about? So thank you for adding a plethora of knowledge.
Well, you're welcome, and just so with that last comment there, Brody, so better this episode than the next one. So that would have
been
in our favor. How some luck at last.
I know.
Yeah.
Finally.
The
odds were ever in our favor.
You probably don't want us on the next episode. So.
Really? I never, from what I've seen from you, I didn't think I would get too much. Hate's not the right word. Too much critical, like too many critical things on this show from you. Because I mean, I know you love this show.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So chapter 5 just didn't do it for you, huh?
Yeah, and it was kind of a little bit of an upset just because it's Filoni's episode, and and it was his first attempt at live action, and so I'm kind of chalking it up to that. But yeah, it was out of the whole season. It was definitely, I think we're pretty unanimous as a group that it was on our show that it was probably unfortunately our least favorite.
Here's some good critiques. Write down for next week.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely remember your number to chapter 5, your percentage, because I'd be curious when we get to it.
Well, yeah. And listeners, be sure to check out Brown Leader and the Hyperspace Heroes podcast, where you love listening to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. Go check them out. Their podcast is fantastic. We've been on it. We know from personal experience how great their stuff is. And if you didn't listen to last week's episode, I am going to tie in one amazing thing again. where when we jumped on to review and talk about Star Wars A New Hope, the episode started right when we started our review, and it ended when he clicked the end broadcast or whatever he did on his end,
Yeah.
Brown Leader, right when it said directed by George Lucas, end credits ended right there on the dot. I have never seen, and he might not chalk this up to, he might say that was lucky, but I think that was the best production and directing
Top
of
notch.
any podcast producer I've ever seen in the history of my life, because that was
I mean-
timed way too
I
perfectly.
mean, Heather said it. Brown Leader is never wrong.
He's never wrong, and that was amazing the way he was able to guide the conversation that way. So if you want to see masterful productions from a masterful podcaster and a crew of podcasters as well who are equally masterful, go check out Hyperspace Heroes. And if you want to check out more Duel of the Ranks, Christian, where can they do that?
Where are we? We're online, on the line.
I like how
In
you
the
say, where
web.
are we? Because you also don't know.
We have a website. We updated dueltheranks.com. We've indexed all the numbers for your viewing pleasure. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
We're not on Facebook. We are on
TikTok.
Facebook. Look at me. I'm still not over the. Where are we? He raises both of his hands.
We're out there. You'll find us. If you're actually looking for us, you'll find us.
Yeah. That answer. Just Google us, guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's okay. You
We
know
need
what?
Amanda back.
Yeah, you need. We really do. I don't know either. We're on Twitter. I know we have a website. She's doing something with TikTok, and she does other stuff for us.
She's doing great.
She does great work, and when she's not here, neither you or I know. I mean, I've given you grief, but I don't know either. Guys, if you want to look up more Duel of the Ranks content, please Google Duel of the Ranks, and hopefully you'll find us sooner or later, but maybe you won't. Hopefully you do. Otherwise, if you're still listening at this point, we'll check you out next week as we break down the Mandalorian Season 1, Chapter 5. See you then.